and welcome to another episode of Keep It Locked with me, Simon Hill, as always. Before we get into this episode, don't forget, follow Keep It Locked across social media. We're on Twitter at Keep It Locked Pod. You can also follow me with a load of randomness, including, wrestling stuff, gaming stuff. I'll be Simon H Official across Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. And we've also launched our brand new official Keep It Locked merch. Head over to My Wrestle Merch. Pins and Knuckles have rebranded their wrestling site, and I'm in good company there. Tony Storm, Morgan, Flash Morgan Webster, amongst Chris Ridgway, many others. So, I'm very privileged to be on there. So go and check out the brand new merch. It's awesome. Right, this episode is with the one and only Tyson T Bone. Now, I've been very fortunate enough to have met Tyson T Bone on one of my first ever shows working in the business. Such a great guy, a consummate professional, and he's got so many stories to tell, and he's always happy to give constructive feedback about any part of the business, and that is invaluable. But we speak about so much in this episode, from his indie days coming up, winning various championships, wrestling at some of the biggest promotions in the UK, going on to NXT UK and his experiences there, where it all kind of happened through one person, William Regal. So that is an incredible story and a fascinating insight into how Tyson T Bone became a member of the NXT UK roster. We also talk about his relationship with one of the UK's best indie talents, in my opinion, Rampage Brown. An incredible story there on how they first met to where they are now, and some of the brilliant matches they had in between all of that. There's so much more, and it's all here in one huge packed episode. So let's do it. It's Tyson T Bone on Keep It Locked. So as I said, super excited to have the one and only Tyson T Bone on Keep It Locked. Dude, thank you so much. This has been in the works forever, it feels like, but you're finally here, so let's have an awesome interview. I'm so excited for this.
Cheers, man. It's great to be here, and thanks for having me. Sorry, I've just been an absolute pain in the butt to get on here. You know, it's like third time's a charm though, hey? I know this is the third time we've tried to do this, but hey.
Hey, you're here now, and that's all that matters. So, talk to me. How's life been? It's been weird times, but NXT UK is coming back as well. You've been a busy man doing other things. So, talk to me how life's treating you.
It's been actually quite good. The last few months has been really good for me in respects of it's given me a chance to actually heal some things that have been annoying me. Like my neck's been really bad for the last couple of years. W, if you're listening, I'm sorry. It's not bad at all. It's perfectly fine now. So it's been good for that. And then with their announcement saying that they're coming back soon, it's like a panic almost of, where's the gym? Where's that place again? Oh yeah, he's not the guy sat on my couch. It is down the road. I do have to go there again now. So there's been like a little panic of, oh God, how do I get in Johnny Moss shape in a minute?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen your Insta though. You've been keeping in good shape, considering that 5 months without a gym, and you've been still keeping. I mean, you're a big guy, aren't you? You keep well ripped.
No, not until 10 years ago maybe, but now I'm just fairly strong, I guess. And I know for a lot of people over the last 5 months, it's like it's been hard for them in respects of they've gone from they've built and worked up their strength to suddenly they go back to a gym and they've gone back 100 steps. And me, I guess I've just been a bit of a cocky twat with some of the Instagram posts by just suddenly saying, yeah, I can still lift pretty much exactly the same as what I could before. And in fact, I can do more reps now because I'm not sure, which I think is probably going to upset a few people. But hey, I'm just naturally strong.
Is it true that you were almost leg pressing a ton at one point?
900 and something. Yeah.
Wow. How?
Yeah. Who can hear that?
Right. I have my resources. There was
a point where I did a stupid one, and always with my thing with leg press was as well, though, I wouldn't just do one rep. I would try and do like a full set and try and kick it out. Like, I don't know, what's my leg press now? 20 plates aside now. I can still do 20 reps on. So what's 20 plates?
24,
yeah, still 800 and 840, I think, with the sled. I can still do 20 reps on 840. So.
Wow. That's insanity. That's
anyone
insanity.
wants to criticize it or say anything, that's with my knees coming all the way down to my chest and pushing it all the way back up and being an idiot and doing it too many times and wondering why my knees and my hips are so sore and my lower backs are sore and my hamstrings are just broken. And yeah.
Form's important, man. Form's important.
Also, for all the young kids out there who want to aspire to be wrestlers or bodybuilders, don't always lift heavy, because when you get old like me, it hurts. Certain joints just hurt, and then that stupid alpha male instinct inside your head says, but I still have to lift it. It will go up. It will get heavier and heavier. I don't know why. Idiot inside me.
Yeah, you're talking about me here. I'm one of those guys who goes to the gym and go, but I can get one more out. Oh, no, mate, I can't. Right, let's get into Tyson T Bone as a wrestler and your wrestling career, because you weren't always a fan to begin with, were you, of wrestling?
No, not at all. But my first training session, I still really had no idea what wrestling was, or other than something that was done in the Olympics. So yeah, I was very blinded by the fact that there was a whole industry, because before wrestling, I was just into boxing and banger racing and a lot of other things like that, and then stumbled across a wrestling school. The rest, as they say, kind of progressed from there, and from wrestling suddenly made me appreciate it, which then made me like it, enjoy watching it, fall in love with it, start to hate it, have a relationship with it, have a marriage with it. It's like an ongoing saga of my life now, and it's like one minute I hate it, the next minute I love it. But it's something that no matter how much I hate or love, I'm always passionate about now.
And any time that I've seen you, we've crossed paths at many shows, you always have such a great mind for the business and a great passion to help people. Is that something that, over the years you kind of grown to want to do more, to just be there for the younger talent coming up and be able to help them as well?
Yeah, definitely. I think I'm someone who is always wanting to learn myself, and if I can watch a show, like, don't get me wrong, I try and watch everything that's on a show. If someone doesn't come to me and ask me if I saw anything, I'm not going to go to them and say, look, this was a bit hokey, or this or this or this. I'll only do it if someone has the motivation to want to come and try and get better themselves and ask if I saw anything, then I'll always do it. But yeah, I don't know. I just, in recent time as well, some of the stuff that I've been watching and learning myself, just little tiny things that you see that make such a big difference to a finished product. And you just see that, wow, I didn't even realize that was a thing. So I know for a fact that I'm going to watch all of this and know that no one's going to do it. Yeah. And it does just make little but big differences. And yeah, as regards to helping, I always want to help people to get better. And as regards to teaching, that's something where, yeah, I've done little bits. I would, especially for, say, beginners and stuff like that, that's something that I would really like to broaden my spectrum into, I guess. But yeah.
Well, that'd be good. So if WWE turned up and was like, NXT UK guys, some of the new guys, you'd be up for teaching some of those guys?
Oh, definitely. I've said this to a few of the coaches there. If it became a full-time PC like the one in America, and they said, right, we're hiring soccer players, football, but in case there's any American, I have to say soccer, rugby players, powerlifters, bodybuilders. If they ever signed people from Europe and said, right, we want to bring them to this school first, or this performance center first, and then they said to me, am I prepared to take the time and do it in a way which is friendly enough and not harsh enough to actually go from the first steps up until a point where I say, right, now you can go to whoever's going to teach you basic fundamentals and stuff like that. I'd love that. I would absolutely love it. That would be, great.
I think you're fit for purpose, definitely. So let's hope that is a thing that can definitely happen down the line. Now, when you started your career, as we said, you weren't really into wrestling at the start. It's something that was a gradual process for you, and now you're obviously incredibly passionate, fell in love with the business. But when you were learning in England, you went through, some basic training sessions, but then you felt like you needed to escape, and you went over to America, where you ended up training there as well.
Yeah, purely by accident. I was running away basically from a life here that I needed to just be away from, but that's a whole different story. And then when I got there, it just so happened that Killer Kowalski School was on the same street near enough as to where I was staying, which opened my eyes to a whole new world of wrestling again. I lied my way in. Can't remember what I said exactly, but basically said that, I've been doing this forever. I'm the best in England. I can run rings around all of you silly Yanks. What a mistake. Paid the price for it within about 10 seconds of being in the building, when everyone in there literally saw straight through me and went, try this one. And yeah. And then it was for the next 3 weeks that I was there that really opened my eyes to what wrestling should be like. This is where you have to be careful with how things are interpreted because of the way that the world is now, etc., which doesn't mean the world's wrong. But the first 3 weeks was intense, to say the least. It was pretty much beat up every day, which gave me so much more respect and appreciation for how hard wrestling actually is compared to your everyday life. You say to someone on the street, oh yeah, I wrestle. Oh yeah, that fake stuff, that trampoline type thing. Go there for the first 3 weeks and see what happens. It's definitely not. I found that harder than the first 3 weeks there. I found harder on my body than any time was I doing boxing or anything like that. I just got beat up, which again taught me to sell, taught me to think about how I was doing things, protecting my body better, making sure that my bumps are different to everyone else's because they're not completely clean, but they're in a way which protects my body. Stuff like that. And then after the 3 weeks, when it was suddenly, you're still here, you still haven't just realized that you're not good at this and pissed off, it was then that it was, let's teach you properly. And I think that philosophy is kind of missing from today's wrestling, but at the same time I understand why it's missing from today's wrestling, because the mentality of wrestling now is wrestling is for everybody. Everyone should be allowed the opportunity to wrestle. Whereas say then, it wasn't necessarily that not everybody could wrestle, but it was like, let's see if you've got what it takes before we get too far involved in this. And it was just great for me.
And that learning process, that change, especially from coming from the UK, and then obviously, you went to the States for various reasons, but you found yourself at this school. That learning process of taking those very physical, brutal bumps and fists and things like that, did that teach you the mindset of wrestling as well, and how you would approach it very differently when you came back to the UK?
It made me realize that. I think that was like my initial first argument with my relationship as such, that said, can we work through this and can we make this better? And in turn, it allowed me to change and make myself better as regards to a wrestling kind of outlook of things. And then when I came back, it just gave me, a different attitude and a different way of looking at things. It made me, I don't know, they say about the vibe you give off that shows to different people and how that can attract different people to you. And I think when I came back, I think my vibe was very different to how it was before I went. And then suddenly the people that appeared around me were people who I could learn from, who I could later on refer to as friends, and they would help me and have my back and be people that wanted to see me do good and help me to get to the level where they could, I guess, through whatever I was giving off, see that I wanted to be there. I guess coming back gave me a whole different outlook on it all.
And when you
when you did come back, as you said there, you surround yourself with people that you could learn off. You did surround yourself with some of the best in the UK at that time. Some of the SAS guys, the likes of Dave Mastiff, Spud, Barry as well, Don Charles, some of these big, bright characters who were making their name known in the UK. So what was it like for you coming back then, being through this brutal but really insightful time in America to bringing that into the UK?
Just great as a whole. It didn't take long of being there to realize that was then what I wanted to do and who I wanted to be around and the people that I wanted to help me, I guess. Not sure if that actually answers your question, but it just, it made me realize that the love was already in there and these people were going to help bring that love completely to the surface, I guess.
With SAS especially, they had so much going on. Arguably one of the best promotions going in the UK at that time. Was that somewhere you were able to apply all the things that you had learned in America, then come back to UK, learning off these guys, and you were able to grow?
Definitely. A lot of the stuff that I learned in America was already stuff that Dave knew, Spud knew, Ashton knew, Barry for someone who doesn't wrestle. He understands everything and he's incredible. And it was nice to know that I didn't need to be the other side of the world to still suddenly be able to have that. And again, I think that's where half the problems for me came from, because I didn't understand or know anything about wrestling before I went there. I didn't know this had actually existed in the UK. And then to suddenly come back and find that was eye-opening and really insightful and helpful. And I'll always appreciate all the time that they gave me and the help that Barry, etc., has given me and still continually give me now.
Yeah, I mean, our experience is very different with Barry. So when I worked at Kerrang Radio as a presenter, we used to get some of the SAS guys in, Spud, especially Dave, and yeah, Barry. So I got slammed onto metal floor from Dave. Barry cut a promo live on air. I'm on the floor dying because it's just metal flooring outside the studio. Missed my next link. Barry picks me up. Dave gives me another one without me even thinking about it. So I was just like, right, thanks, guys. Totally screwed up the radio show. But yeah, they're great guys. And what a beautiful mind Barry has.
Mm-hmm.
Such an educator. But then you would go on, with the SAS guys, you said you were learning through there, but you were also looking at some of the other British guys as well, the likes of Drew McIntyre, Sheamus. You were looking at these guys thinking, okay, that's the sort of image I want to build myself around. These guys were getting bigger physically. They were cutting good promos, having good matches. Is that something you still do now? Do you still look at these guys and the transformation they've had from the UK days to where they are now?
Yeah, a really random fact. My first ever ring hire I did was when Drew wrestled Sheamus on their last ever show in this country before they moved to America.
No way.
Yeah. Sorry, repeat the last part of the question.
So are these guys, someone that you still look at as, the transformation they've made?
Definitely. I mean, you look at Drew and how Drew was the chosen one to now being the Scottish psychopath, and the two wrestlers, the two human beings, not just wrestlers, are completely different. And that's someone who has gone over there, learnt his craft, and then perfected his craft, becoming the psychopath. So that's inspirational itself. And that's not something that's happened overnight. That's something that's took him 12 years, 13 years to actually do, which a lot of people won't give something the chance to create that. Sheamus, look at him now compared to where he was, again, 12, 13 years ago. He was different to Drew in respects of Drew had to go off and find himself, whereas Sheamus he was there and he knew. It was like when Sheamus went there, it was like Sheamus knew what he wanted to be and he allowed himself to be that. And he was that for so long. And it's only this last, what's he been off TV until recently? Was he off for nearly a year?
A year and a half, I think, yeah.
When he came back, it's like the same but different. It's like, hang on, this is still Sheamus, but this is Sheamus that now has realised he's got older, completely changed his body, looks incredible, and is probably working better now than he's ever done. And it's like, as in, his movements are suddenly so much quicker. His getting up and down is quicker again. It's like, wow, okay. So yeah, I do look at these people and think everyone should be looking at this sort of stuff and thinking that's where the level is. In regards to, do I still watch people? All the time. Rampage Brown, for example, I try and watch his stuff always because I genuinely believe he's one of the best people in this country who is unsigned to anything, and from a human being standpoint as well as a wrestler standpoint, you can learn so much from. Loads of people, yeah, loads. And then even more recently, it's like watching some of the old World of Sport stuff and stuff that I've never really had. I've had an interest in it, but never felt there was a need to watch because I just thought, oh, it's old wrestling. It's not going to stand in today's time because of the way that wrestling has changed. But then when you actually sit down and you start watching it, you start to appreciate, well, actually, there's so many elements of this that could still be on every show now, and people wouldn't sit there and go, oh, this is boring. This is just that old rubbish, because it's not. It's class.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. I mean, some of the early 90s stuff, late 80s, I still watch today.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal. You mentioned Rampage Brown. You guys have had such a great relationship over the years, had your tag team, which we'll speak about in a moment, as well as singles competitions. Now, you had many, many matches before facing Rampage Brown, but you have labelled this as one of the most brutal first encounters you've ever had back when you first stepped in the ring with Rampage Brown. Tell me about that memory that you've
got. Brutal. I remember it really well in respects of it was in Telford and it was for All Star of all places. And when it's described as brutal, people will expect, how can it be brutal if it was on All Star? That can't mean it was like smashing each other over the head and all the rest of it. No, this was Rampage Brown proving a point. Because I was in the best shape I'd ever been in at this point, and it was like, I think almost in my head, I was in a different place of, I know I'm in better shape than a lot of people at the moment, so that's going to propel me a bit more. And then I think Rampage saw that as, you might be in shape. Let's see if you can still breathe by the end of this. And it started off as it meant to go on. And I remember there was a point in it where we've been on each other. And there was a point in there where he had me in what should have been just a normal chin lock. And still to this day, I can remember this bit of, he put this chin lock on. I hear this, at which point I feel all the air come out of my lungs and realise I can't get any air in my lungs. And I was just like, what is going on? Eventually the match carried on. I'm supposed to, at this point, have some sort of comeback. And I just think to myself, I can't even lift my arms, let alone run a rope or breathe at this point. And he's there chuckling to himself. And it's the first time I've ever, and the last, I mean, that I've ever come back from a match, walked into the dressing room, and not even had a chance to get to the chair to sit down, where I've just gone woof on the floor, lay there, and just thought, wow. And, at that point, and then when he comes walking through, my sweat on him, not even his own sweat, and he just stands there and just goes, "You all right?" Yeah. That was my welcome to Rampage Brown, telling you, you can be in the best shape of your life, but I will still have to beat your ass. But it kind of set something else as well, because from then going forward, I don't know, he's just been like I say, he's become a role model going forward since then. I loved that attitude that he had then. Oh, who's this new kid who thinks he's someone cool? It wasn't like, let's bring him down. Let's show him the level we need to be to help elevate me. And it was, again, that learning experience. And yeah.
And then you went on to tag with Rampage Brown.
Yeah.
How was that for you? Because that's a very different side of Rampage that you're seeing there. But you guys had some incredible matches and a very memorable tag team name.
Yeah, forget the name. The name was more of a joke than anything else, and the name wasn't supposed to be for me and Rampage. The name was for me and someone else, and then for some reason it still stuck, and it just whatever. But it worked. It worked for what it was needed to be. Tagging with him, I repeatedly tell him that it was the best 4 years, and the busiest 4 years of my wrestling career, and I can't thank him enough for everything that he did in that time. Probably times where he was just thinking, "Oh God, I don't want to tag with this twat again," but still, it was. It made me better. It made me more humble. It made me work harder in the gym, work harder in training, work harder in matches, appreciate the position I was in through learning from the person that was stood next to me. Made me realize just how much, what would the words be? You know, like when someone says, he knows my every move. He knows where I'm going to be.
Yeah. So like a synergy.
Yeah, it was the first synergy. That's the way. It was the first time in wrestling I ever felt that chemistry of, as despite no matter how good my friendships are with various people, it was the first time I felt like there was that connection that even if I was the other side of the room, I knew I didn't need to turn around because I knew exactly where he was. And he said it was always the same, that whenever we were doing stuff, he never needed to know where I was because he knew where I was. And it just made for everything being not a job. It made for everything being the most fun learning experience, and something that I wish was still happening now, because it did. It made me so much better. It made me the wrestler that everyone says that I should be, and I find really hard to be without knowing that he's there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And WWE, if you're listening, this can still happen. Fingers crossed. So before we do get to the WWE stuff, though, a lot of people may not know, or they may, that you had an incredible career on the indie scene. Multiple promotions, various championships. What are some of your best memories from working the indie scene, for all that time before you ended up with WWE?
There's a match that stands out to my heart that happened maybe a year, 18 months after I actually started, with a guy that most people probably won't know, a Welsh wrestler called Cayman. We wrestled each other in a hair versus hair match. It was for charity. It was for cancer research, because my mum had died not long prior to this through cancer, and I wanted to try and just raise a bit of money for it, and just so I felt like I was giving something. I look at it now and think, if I knew everything I know now, we could still do the same match, but it would look a billion times better, just from little tweaks and twists and stuff like that. But still now, I think you could put that match on a show and it would hold up. It was just emotional, passionate, and even now, I'd say if that happened, if that was my only match and my last ever match, I could leave wrestling happy, knowing that I did that match. And that's something I don't see Cayman very often anymore, but it's something I will always hold him really close to my heart and near and dear, to say thank you for making that happen. That's my massive standout match. There's loads of other matches which are like, there's loads of matches which are cool and fun, but that's the one that has always meant the most.
Wow.
I think I could, as unappreciative as this may sound, I think I could wrestle a main event on WrestleMania, win the WWE Championship off whoever it may be at that point, and as much as that would be a huge emotional thing for me, it wouldn't have the exact same meaning as that did, because to me, that's the only match I can ever do for my mum. And
Yeah, no, absolutely. What an incredible story as well. And with that in mind, obviously you went on to wrestle across multiple promotions. What was it like for you just before you got to WWE? You were in kind of a really, really good shape, a good place, and then you got this call. I'm putting you over here. Come on.
I want to stop you right there and say, well, that's all a lie. Because the year prior to actually going to a tryout, I was probably one of the unhealthiest and least shaped that I'd been in years. I was, I'd hurt my hip really bad. I'd hurt my back really bad. I'd damaged my shoulder. I'd got a problem with my elbow. My neck was really hurting. I physically was at a point where I was just like, I'm not sure that I want to keep doing this because it was hurting. Like, to get up was hurting. To get up in the morning was hurting, but to go to sleep was hurting. And I was at a point where I just didn't think. I'd already been told by WE many years prior to this that I was too old, I was too tattooed, and I was too small. So in my head, it was kind of like something that wasn't going to happen anyway. And I was just like, right, I've had a real good run with wrestling. I've seen loads of places. I've wrestled so many people who I appreciate the fact that people trusted me enough to give me the opportunity to wrestle all those people. I've made some friends. Maybe now is the time to sort of like, let's disappear and just be done with it. And then Mr. Regal was at a show I was at and said, Tom, you've never had an actual tryout, have you? I was like, no. And he's like, well, can you do one? And I was like, oh, man, I'm in so much pain right now. Without trying to tell him that bit. Yeah, of course I can. Easy, no problem. When is it? And it was like a month's time after that, I think. And I was just like, oh, shit. Yeah. And someone who I'm really grateful that was on that tryout was a guy called Charlie Garrett. Or no, not Charlie Garrett. Not allowed to say that name anymore. Charlie Sterling. I was so grateful that he was actually on that tryout with me, because he is one person who I would say that I've had massive involvement with training, and having him at the tryout with me and standing next to me throughout the whole thing made me have that rocket shoved up me that said, you will get through this. No matter how much pain you're in, you will get through this. I know every single night at that tryout, I was going back to the hotel. I was laying in the bath. I was standing in the shower. I was laying back in an ice bath. I was just laying there thinking, why? And then didn't think anything would come of it. And then suddenly there was that call that said, right, we're going to do this UK thing. Can you be a part of it? And again, there was this part of me like, man, I am in pain. But that then gave me a few months to actually try and disappear from life for a little bit to try and fix myself, and touch wood, fixed it enough to then get a contract and pass a medical and somehow all the rest of it. And yeah, and now nearly 4 years later, I guess that's in the past.
Yeah, and as you said there, so this one was actually in my notes. So you mentioned that William Regal was the one that approached you when I think you were doing ring hire at the time, and you had encountered Mr. Regal various times, and he asked you to, there's that guy in the corner. Can you go and, go and cut a promo for me, and then we'll give you a 6-minute match. Tell us about this story, because it's fascinating.
Almost true. Almost right. So I'd been training with Robbie Brookside for a little while, who's someone who I hold up as one of my trainers as well. I'd been seeing him and we'd been going to training, and then he said he wanted to put me in for a tryout. They looked at me and said, no, too tattooed, etc. I was like, okay, cool. And it was going to be the first big UK week-long tryout that they did. And I was like, okay, cool. And then they said, you do ring hire, don't you? And I said, yep. And they said, could I hire them a ring and be there to make sure the ring goes okay for this week that they were doing this week-long tryout? I said, yeah, thinking, why do they need me? They've got multiple of their own rings. Then I realized it was their entire tour, so all their rings were going to be at different places. So they then asked me to go to do extra work the day before, 2 days beforehand. I was like, yeah, cool. Did extra work in Birmingham, and that's where I first met Mr. Regal. I was sat with Robbie Brookside, Frankie Sloan, Mr. Regal, Daniel Bryan. Who else was there? Quite a few other people there. And we all sat there chatting away. And there was a few of Robbie's other trainees who'd been brought in to do some extra work as well. We were sat there having a chat, and it was somewhere in that chat that Mr. Regal seemed to like make a bit of a beeline for me, and didn't think anything of it. We were just talking like normal. And then the tryout started to happen. As the tryout was happening, I was just sat watching, feeling really knocked off that I wasn't actually doing this tryout, watching. And then suddenly on the last day, I was just sat there, and Mr. Regal goes, "So as some of you people may be aware, Tom's been sat there doing watching the ring for the last 5 days. He's minded his own business. He stayed there. He's kept focused, and he's watched on everything. Now, Tom, if you could just do a promo on him for me." And I was like, yeah, cool. So did that. And then after that happened, he was like, "Have you got any gear here?" I said, "Yeah, I've got my gear from when we did the extra work." He's like, "Right, get your gear on. I want you to go and do a 6-minute match with him." And then the match went great. And that was it was towards the end of a tryout. And actually at that point, then you needed to get basically 5 yeses to be signed. And there was 3.5 that said yes. One that was like, "I want to say yes, but he's so tattooed, I have to say no." And then there was one who, still to this day, I am 100% sure if it was left just to him, would still be saying no.
What an incredible story, though. The fact that Mr. Regal saw something in you. He was adamant.
Apparently, it was just my eyes.
Well, that's it. Apparently, you've got beautiful eyes, Tom.
Yeah, apparently so. Apparently, I have distinctive eyes.
Well, there you go.
Yep.
And, eventually you would get that contract. You were offered this contract for WWE to work on NXT UK. After everything you'd been through over the years, the running off to America, coming back, learning through various promotions, making your way through various matches, what was it finally like to be offered that contract?
For lack of better terms, icing on a cake, I guess, is like it makes you realize, like, when you make a cake, how much there's the beating and all the hard work that goes into it before you finally get to do the icing. The icing's the easy bit, isn't it? Unless you're doing like some real big decorative thing where you put all the fancy bits on it. But yeah, it was like, it made all the stuff before it, no matter how hard any of it was and how many times I looked at things and thought, "Oh, man, I don't want to keep doing this," or how many times when I was just in pain thinking, "I don't want to do this," or when you look in your bank account and the bank manager's on the phone to you saying you've like come past the end of your overdraft again. It just, not that still doesn't happen, because it still does, but it just realised that for all the crap that you have to go through, there is a light. And if you want your light to be WWE, then it is there, and it does become an icing on a cake when you sign that piece of paper. And then you have that horror feeling go through you when they say, "We're doing a background check, we're doing this, we're doing that," and you suddenly think, "Man, did I ever write anything on Facebook? Did I ever write anything on Twitter? Did I ever put anything on Instagram? Oh man, there's going to be something. There's going to be some psychopathic ex that's going to say, 'Oh yeah, he did this.'"
Yeah. But it was bittersweet for you. It was one of those moments that, you'd finally worked so hard, been through the injuries, been through the drama, been through triumphs, tribulations, but then the total opposite, and you'd finally been able to look at this WWE letter-headed contract with your name on it.
Yeah, definitely. It was a happy time. A shock as well, to be fair.
It's one of those that I think, because watching you do come across so intense, and you've got a great persona about you. You're so good to watch. So I think it was very well deserved.
Thank you. Not that again, I don't mean this in a nasty way, because I've been given a job to do, and I think I try and do the job to the best of what I'm allowed to do my job since I've been there. But I don't think you get to see that same thing you've just described there. I don't think that's been seen at NXT because of the position that I'm in at the moment.
I'm certainly hoping that changes. We need more Tyson T Bone on our NXT UK. We need it more on the WWE network for sure.
Bet you say that to all the boys. Oh, and girls, sorry. Correct.
No, you did mention tattoos. You had your first one at a very young age, but it didn't
Yep.
stop there, did it?
No, it still doesn't stop. It still carries on. It's still an ongoing thing. And now the worst thing I ever did was learn how to tattoo, because now there's points where I just sit there and I might end up with the new occasional doodle on me somewhere.
So where did the, for lack of a better term, obsession come from? Was it just something you'd seen friends and family have, or?
No. I can go into a mental health issue right now, I guess. I think it was like I didn't like what there was. So I started to cover it up. As simple and as daft as that is, I don't know. I'm not comfortable in my own skin half the time. I'm not as much as I can come across as a brash or a confident or anything else. I'm not. To me, tattoos were as much as a lot of them have meaning to me. A lot of it was just to cover up what's underneath, because I didn't like seeing what was underneath. Which, in turn, if someone had said to me, instead of going through all that pain and doing all that, you do realize there is gym down the road, and there is various things you can do, like diet and stuff like that can make you feel better. Because there was a point where, although it almost killed me having to work that hard to try and change things, that you can actually get into better shape and make yourself more how you want to feel for yourself. But it was just easier to get tattooed, I think.
Wow, what a story. You've touched a nerve there, but that's for a different time. But really, really fascinating to hear you speak about it was mental health that led to that, because it was a similar thing for me, but I don't have as many. Maybe if I learned to tattoo myself, then I'd probably be in the same situation as you. I can't imagine. Do you sit there on an evening and just think, I'm bored? Should I just get my tattoo pen out?
Not so much now, but there was a point, where, because I'd always I'm not so bothered about my legs. Like, my legs have never really bothered me. I've not ever found them anything. It was always my upper body. But then there was a point where I'd pretty much covered my upper body, and I was sat there and I was just like, yeah, something on my ankle might look okay. Start doing, and it always started with like the mini little tribal things that you see 18-year-old kids get, where they just go in a tattoo shop and go, I'll have that. And it's like the pointless thing. And there's like at various, like, I've got pointless little stars on one of my feet, and I just think that was just because I was bored. I've got like, what else have I got? A little tribal thing. Again, why? A skull that's no bigger than my thumb, which again, why? Anything from ankle downwards is just like, when I was just thinking, oh, why? And then there was points where on the insides of my calves where I've just done bigger things, and then it comes all the way up to the top of my quads, where I remember that I've got quite a big one with a rose and a swallow and stuff, where I was actually going to tattoo someone and they didn't turn up, and it really annoyed me that they hadn't turned up, because I got everything out and I was all ready to go, and then literally just sat there and started drawing with a pen. And as I was drawing with the pen, I suddenly was like, I actually quite like that. And then before I'd even finished saying to myself, I actually quite like that, the needle was just bam in my leg. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm having that now.
Wow.
Yeah,
I think it's
sit there and think. I end up sitting there and thinking after the needle's gone in.
It's a unique hobby for sure.
Yeah.
Now, this is something I ask everybody that I interview, because everybody's got a different taste in music. So I remember having a conversation with Big Guns Joe, and he, on the way back from shows, puts High School Musical on. Whereas, Valkyrie will listen to, some emo stuff or some pop punk stuff. And the list goes on. So when Tyson T Bone is at the gym or he's getting ready for a show, he's, zoning in backstage, what is he listening to?
Varies. I have like a massive broad spectrum of music. Like I used to listen to classical when I trained.
Wow.
Yeah, I used to listen to a lot of Beethoven especially when I was doing deadlifts. I don't know why. It would just like, I listened to it and sort of glide in my head, and it would help my breathing, because I used to deadlift heavy, don't now, but I don't know, it just used to allow me to like go into I don't know, like a real relaxed state, and my breathing was just focused, and I used to be able to find lifting really easy. And then some days, for chest days, it was always things like Prodigy,
Nice.
or Motorhead or Motley Crue. Yeah, Jimi Hendrix was always in there as well. But then you can go as far as more recent genres of music, and I'll still listen to anything. Like one of the lads I used to train with, he swears by training to things like Britney Spears, and I'm just like, okay, whatever. And it makes no odds to me really what's actually on. It's the same as when I'm driving. I can just, unless I'm really tired, then I will either switch it off or I'll put on some. Normally Motorhead's my one to try and wake me up.
Yeah.
And keep me awake. But yeah, I'll listen to anything really.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. It's a very weird one, that one, Beethoven, whilst you're doing deadlifts, as deadlifts are horrible. But yeah, to have that motivation of
what is it when people meditate? They say generate state, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know,
Oh, like a I know what you mean.
The Ode to Joy one.
Yeah. I'm trying to.
I don't know what it is, but if you listen to it and just close your eyes, you'll suddenly find that you start breathing much more calm. And I just used to find the more calm I went into a deadlift, the heavier I could lift. Like I'd sit there and I'd be like, you see some people smelling salts and they're just like, rah, poof, and then they'll lift. And to me, I tried to do that. I just couldn't. And it was like my lifts were going down and down and down. And then the guy who owned the gym I was training at, he said, listen to this and tell me if it helps. He said, just sit there for a minute and just relax and breathe through it and just listen. And I was like, okay. And I did it. And then suddenly I lifted my heaviest deadlift I'd ever lifted. I was like, what the is that? And yeah.
Wow.
For me.
Incredible. So, I mean, Tyson T Bone, this has been incredible. I feel like we've only scratched the surface. I think we need to do part 2. When me and you cross paths at a show, maybe a camera and a couple of mics will do us good.
Yeah, man.
But we should definitely 100% do a part 2. Before you do leave us though, where can people find you? Plug your merch, your online stuff, WWE stuff, all that stuff.
See, this is where I can upset every wrestler under the sun and say to myself, I don't really bother with merch because I think fans pay enough for tickets as it is. So no merch. Occasionally I might bring a t-shirt out and then I end up giving them away anyway because I'm just stupid like that. Where can you find me? Instagram at, man, you're asking me about technology. Tyson _T Bone.
Yeah.
It's the same on Twitter as well. And yeah, give me a follow. I probably won't follow you back. Message me. Probably won't message you back for months either. Because I'm rubbish. It's, social media. It's going to destroy the world. Everyone needs to realise this. So there we go. I'll plug it.
And of course, you can check out a lot of your matches on WWE Network and YouTube and all that sort of stuff. So I can't wait to see you back in the ring, though. I absolutely love watching you, and we always have a good time backstage and stuff when you're at various shows. So this has been awesome.
I'm always sat there, miserable look on my face. I know.
You did on one of my first ever shows that I worked for an indie promotion. I remember you doing a promo. We did an interview, and you cut this promo. And although I was, keeping in the character, a part of me also shat myself because I was like, because You are that intense, and it's
You want intense? If you just said let's do take two, then you'd have seen intense.
Right, I know what to get out of you next time then. But Tyson T Bone, thank you so much for your time. I know this has been in the works for a long time, but it was worth the wait. So thank you so much.
Thank you for your time.